If you didn't know, what you believe about the world and how it works causes you to make decisions. Those decisions affect your life. No kidding, huh? We kind of know that. So what you believe about the world, about money, and about the economics matters. Because it either paralyzes you like a deer in the headlights, or it causes you to push forward, persevere, fight and climb and scratch because you believe you control your own destiny. These things matter. These discussions of philosophy and theology matter because they affect whether or not you actually take the advice I give you every single day on the show and go use it. So when someone comes against that, I occasionally want to just stop and go, let's apply a little critical thought to this. So let me ask you this. Here's a belief that you have. And I want you to call in because we're going to talk about this the entire hour. Get ready. It's going to be juicy. What causes poor people to be poor? What do you believe about that? Because what you believe about that will cause you to take actions in your own life or not take actions in your own life. What causes poor people to be poor? It's a great question. It'll challenge your theology. It'll challenge your doctrine. It'll challenge your philosophy of life. Because the first thing that happens is if you have a fairly narrow view of life, meaning you haven't gotten out much or don't read much, you have just one opinion, and it's usually wrong because it's only a partial observation. Let me give you an example of that. Okay? This article was just published in the Washington Post. The headline reads, Christians are more than twice as likely to blame a person's poverty on lack of effort. Christians are more than twice as likely to blame a person's poverty on lack of effort. Washington Post and Kaiser Family Foundation asked 1,686 American adults to answer the question, what causes poverty? And I'm not going to go through the whole article, but I'll pull out the statistics for you because they bounce around and do some weird theological stuff that's not even, I don't even know how to end up in the article. It's like they're dealing with postmillennialism and all this other stuff that has nothing to do with the discussion. They really got convoluted. But the bottom line of the article is this. The poll shows that 46% of all Christians said that a lack of effort is generally to blame for a person's poverty, compared with 29% of all non-Christians. Now, what you believe about this affects your behaviors. Let me show you how it affects your behaviors. The Washington Post is world-renowned for being anti-Christian and being very liberal in their conservative beliefs, okay? You don't believe that, you haven't read the Post, all right? It's pretty simple. So, let me help you with this. 46% of all Christians said that a lack of effort is generally to blame for a person's poverty, compared with 29% of all non-Christians. So, let me show you how your belief affects your behavior. The headline was, Christians are more than twice as likely to blame a person's poverty on lack of effort. Let me help you with this. 29%, 46%, that is not more than twice. It's not even half. So you messed up your math because of your skewed bias on your belief system. See how it affects your behaviors? You could have, if it were written by the right wing, the alt-right, it could have said, the exact same statistics could have said, less than half of Christians blame a person's poverty on a lack of effort, because it's 46% believe that, according to this survey. You see how it gets skewed? How they reword stuff to make a point, because they obviously had a point. 53% of white evangelical Protestants blamed a lack of effort, while 41% blamed circumstances. 50% of Catholics blamed lack of effort on poverty, while 45% blamed circumstances. In contrast, by more than 2-to-1, the bright people in America, the atheists, the agnostics, who have no particular affiliation, said circumstances are more to blame when a person is poor rather than a lack of effort. 65% of them said circumstances, only 31% said a lack of effort. Now listen to this line. This is fabulous. If you don't think that our media on both sides of the equation, right and left, are completely screwed in the head, this will tell you right here. The question is, of course, not just an ethical one. Ethical? Have they got a dictionary in that place? Ethical? How is this an ethical question? But it's a political one, and the partisan divide is sharp. Well, no kidding. That's why you wrote the article. Among Democrats, 26% blamed a lack of effort, 72% said circumstances, liberals. Among Republicans, 63% blamed a lack of effort, and 32% blamed circumstances, conservatives. And race mattered too. 32% of black Christians blamed lack of effort, compared to 64% who blamed circumstances. So if you are a white evangelical Christian, you hate the poor, you are cold-hearted, unethical, you do nothing but sit in your McMansion with your nose in the air, collecting your unequal wealth, you're greedy and you can't be trusted to walk around on the face of the planet because you blame effort on poverty, poverty on effort or lack of effort. Now, you want to talk about this. This is going to be a great discussion today. The phone number is 888-825-5225. See, the implication of this is only the liberal elite, only people with skinny jeans and really cool beards that have an I Love Bernie 2016 and a Coexist bumper sticker on their Subaru can have the right to properly assess the poor. Now, let me help you with this. If you are in skinny jeans and you have a really cool beard and you drive a Subaru with a Coexist sticker, I'm your friend. I'll be your friend. I am your polar opposite, but I will be your friend. I drive a large pickup that will eat your Prius, 6.0. I carry a 1911 with a hollow point in the chamber, Wilson Combat on my hip most days. 99% of the time you see me, I'm armed. I almost always vote conservative. I hate the government intervention in my life. So I'm the opposite of you. And I am a white evangelical. I am the devil incarnate, which automatically means I'm racist, although I'm not. Half of the Ramsey personalities are black, if you hadn't noticed. And some of my best friends on the planet, by the way. I must be sexist, too. You got a problem there. Half the Ramsey personalities are women. See, this is a hateful premise, is what it is. And the conservatives are not right on this issue, and the liberals are not right on this issue. But to write trash like this in a major newspaper is not only unfair and divisive, it's also a lie. It's untrue. And I'm going to give you some data and walk you through this to show you what I'm talking about. Not to defend the white evangelical Christian, but to discuss our worldview of what causes someone to be poor. So the Washington Post poll and article says 46% of all Christians said a lack of effort is generally to blame for a person's poverty, compared with 29% of all Christians. And that includes Catholics, Protestants, and they give the different breakdowns. I covered that in the first segment. So here's the problem. This is a hateful premise. And we have to stop dividing everyone down these lines of liberal, conservative, black, white. This polarization's got to stop. If you are driving a Subaru with a Coexist sticker on it, I'll be your friend. I'm not mad at you. I don't have to go along with your political beliefs or ideologies to like you or to be your friend or help you if you call in. If you need some help with your money, I'll help you. I'll show you how to fix it. I'll help you. You and I don't agree on anything politically or religiously or whatever. That's fine. That's cool. I mean, when I go to Atlanta, the guy that I've used for 10 years that drives the car for me down there, he owns a car service, is a wonderful guy. His name's Elijah. He owns about 10 cars and has a big car service. I've helped him and talked to him about business, and he's Muslim, and he and I are friends. Hello. He's not trying to convert me to Islam, and I'm not trying to convert him Christian. We're just two guys running businesses, and we like each other. Oh, by the way, he's a black guy, I'm a white guy, just by the way, okay? I mean, why do we have to always be so dadgum hateful? I don't get it. So I'm not mad at you. I'm opposite of you. And if you don't like that, that just means you're intolerant. So here's the thing. Let's first look at some data. Now, if Christians truly believe that poor people exclusively are poor because they're lazy, they have a funny way of showing it because of the amount of money that is given to poor people. ABC News had this article out just a little while back. who is doing the giving? Let's look at charitable giving as the data. Because you wouldn't give to something you don't believe in. 3/4 of American families donate to charity, giving $1,800 each on average. Of course, if 3/4 give, that means 1/4 don't. So we assume that the rich give more than the middle class more than the poor. I've heard liberals that care more than less fortunate, so we assume they give more than the conservatives do. Are these assumptions truth or myth? To test what types of people give more, 2020 went on to two very different parts of the country with contrasting populations. Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and San Francisco, California. The Salvation Army set up buckets at the busiest locations in each city, Macy's in San Francisco, Walmart in Sioux Falls. Which buckets collected more money? Sioux Falls is rural and religious. Half of the population goes to church every week. People in San Francisco make much more money, are predominantly liberal, and just 14% of the people in San Francisco attend church every week. Liberals are said to care more about helping the poor. So did the people in San Francisco who are wealthier and liberal give more? Turns out the idea that liberals give more is a myth. Of the top 25 states where people give an above average percent of their income, 24 of them were red states in the last presidential election. Arthur Brooks, the author of Who Really Cares, says that when you look at the data, it turns out the conservatives give 30% more. And incidentally, conservative-headed families make slightly less on average. And he says the difference in giving goes beyond money, pointing out that conservatives are 18% more likely to donate blood. He says this difference is not about politics, it's about a different way of viewing the world and our view of government. So here's the deal. If Christians, white Christians in particular, believe that the poor are slackers, overwhelmingly the number one group that gives to the poor are Christians. Evangelical white Christians, black Christians, Catholic Christians, Hispanic Christians are the number one giving group in the United States and, for that matter, worldwide. Of those who attend a weekly worship service, 91% give something to someone. 66% of people who do not attend a weekly worship service give something to someone. A 30% drop-off, by the way, around almost 25% drop-off. Now, I've been in church for 35 years. Attended a couple of different churches. I met God as an adult, met Jesus as an adult. The churches I go to are suburban white churches. They're mixed. They have some of every race in them, but they would legitimately be called white evangelical churches. Not that somebody was ruled out, not that somebody was told they couldn't come, but it's the demographic of the area, the neighborhood, the preaching style, all of that tends to cause that. So there's always some Hispanic folk, some black folk, some whatever in there, some white folk. There's a little bit of all kind of folk in there is what it amounts to, but it's mainly white, admittedly. For 35 years, I do not ever recall one single sermon in any of the churches I've attended, anywhere, where someone trashed the poor and said, you're poor because of a lack of effort. Get up off your lazy butt. However, I will tell you that almost every Sunday, that church is raising money to feed the hungry in some city, state, or neighborhood around us, gathering up clothes to give to people that are poor, building houses and buildings for people that are poor in other countries and in our own neighborhood. We spend an awful lot of time, energy, and money giving money to the poor, considering we think they ought to get up off their lazy butts according to this liberal supposition. So it's just inconsistent. It's just actually not true. And if you look at it politically, this comes out. Conservatives give 30% more than liberals. Several pieces of research show that. And, you know, a bunch of articles on stuff out there. This was in the New York Times editorial. Are we cheap? Yes, Americans are cheap, says the former president Jimmy Carter. Recently said the rich states don't give a damn about people in poor countries. And when it comes to helping the needy in poor countries, YouTube singer Bono says it's the crumbs off our table that we offer these countries. Crumbs because many other countries such as Norway, Portugal, and Japan give a larger share of their wealth to needy countries. The United States gave $28 billion in foreign aid last year, but as a percentage of our wealth, we rank 20th out of 22 major donor countries. Actress Angelina Jolie is horrified by this. It's disgusting. It's really disgusting, she said. I think most American people, really do think we give more. And I know they would if they could understand how little they give and how much more we can afford to give, absolutely without even noticing it. But wait a second. When you're talking about giving, you can't just talk about government giving. See, Angelina Jolie could look at herself as an example of a generous American. She gives her time, her money, to charities around the world, not counted in those figures we were just talking about, and so do millions of other Americans. America is not just our government, it's 300 million individuals, and their contributions far exceed what the government gives. America is anything but cheap. Americans give a lot, and last year they gave over $300 billion to charity, so let's put that in perspective and help you with this. Bono, he's worried about Portugal and Norway and Sweden. The people of America gave $300 billion to other countries to help them as individuals last year, which is more than the entire national income of Sweden. That'll help you with your ratios. Okay. 50% volunteer their time. Americans are the most generous per capita in the world. The data says President Carter's wrong. If we look at how much money Americans give per capita compared to citizens in other countries of the world, we find that the average American citizen gives away 3.5 times as much as the average French citizen, 7 times as much as the average German citizen, and 14 times more than the average Italian citizen. That's a per capita number. So the data shows that Americans are generous, that Christians are generous, and reaching out to help poor people. So why all the hate? Why are we hating on the Christians who are giving all this money to poor people? Maybe it's all about dividing the country because if you look at the government and you think government is the sole source of charity, then you would run an agenda that ran articles like this that shows that we need to give more to the government because they're where charity comes from, and yet the data shows otherwise. So how do we help the poor? What causes poor people to be poor? We'll deal with that when we come back, and then we'll take some of your calls. I want to know what you think. Why do you think poor people are poor? Okay, so we're actually using our brain and not our emotions. We're actually thinking. It's called critical thought. And we say, a Washington Post article comes out that says more than half of Christians believe, more than twice as many Christians believe, which the math was wrong on, by the way, more than twice as many Christians believe that lack of effort on the part of the person causes their poverty more than anything else. And of course, we've defeated that. It's just a liberal slant on something. They're just trying to stir it up. We've defeated it by understanding, that the data all shows that Americans and conservatives and Christians, as 3 different groups but also intermingled groups, give more by category than anyone else in the world to the poor. So why would you give to the poor if you think they're lazy and shiftless like that? You wouldn't. You're trying to help them because we that are in that category or in some of those categories understand some things. So you just can't believe the liberal Washington Post when they're trying to say that white evangelicals that elected Trump are primarily politically conservative or greedy, two-faced, and their motives can't be trusted. That's the essence of this. It's hating. It's intolerance on the part of the left. So instead of dividing the country between liberal and conservative or black or white or Christian and non-Christian, why don't we just talk about the real problem, which is poor people? How can we help them? What causes them to be there for real? Well, let me just tell you, it is not just lack of effort. It's also circumstances that they're born into. And it's also oppression from the outside, holding them there. It's all 3 things, and it's all 3 things in different ratios depending on the situation. Let me give you a couple situationals, and we'll look at the ratios for a second, okay? Let's take a person who is in Haiti, been through an earthquake, has a corrupt government. Poverty like no other on the planet, hardly, Haiti. So are they poor because of a lack of effort? You have to universally say no. Their poverty is not caused by a lack of effort. The island's a pile of rocks to start with. It's almost impossible to grow something there. Drilling a well is a major undertaking. The banana republics that have been in and out of there, the corrupt governments, are just ridiculous. And a lot of the charity money that goes down there just goes down a black hole, sadly. So those people are not poor because they're unwilling to work. That is an absurd statement. It's circumstances, by and large, and oppression, secondly, and lack of effort, third, but to a much lesser degree, lack of effort. Would everybody agree with that? Say yes. I mean, so to my conservative friends who say lack of effort is why someone's poor, you can hold the Haiti example up and go, well, you're wrong. It's not the only reason people are poor. In that situation, it illustrates the circumstances sometimes. Another example is I've got a friend of mine in college. He got a master's degree in accounting, and then he took up drinking, ended up homeless. Now, he grew up white middle class like me. Went to the same school I went to, University of Tennessee. Got a white middle class education, just like me. Master's degree in accounting. Shut up. I mean, that's a marketable skill, okay? But not if you're in the bottle. Ends up 2 broken marriages and homeless. So what's his poverty caused by? Circumstances? Nope. Maybe a little bit, but to a very, very small degree, agreed. Was he oppressed by someone? Did the man put him down? No, not hardly. Not hardly. His choices are what put him down, right? He's poor because of his choices. He's poor because of a lack of effort and because he got addicted. That's why he's poor. Completely different than the person in Haiti, agreed? Say yes, everybody. Really? I mean, understand. This is how this works. Think about a buddy of mine, a good friend of mine. I was talking to him the other day. We had a long discussion about this. It was kind of fun. Before this article came out, oddly enough, black guy, African-American guy, whatever you want to call him. He calls himself black, so I'll call him black. That's okay. I'm not all worried about these labels you people are all get twisted up about. But he's a good friend of mine. He grew up in the hood. And you know what he told me? Coming out of the hood in America, in North America, as a black guy, he said, it's easier to get out of the hood than it is to get the hood out of you. Ooh. He said, you didn't have that disadvantage. And I said, you're exactly right. I didn't. Now, we can label that white privilege and try to call me a racist, but that wouldn't work because we've already established I'm not. Shut up, okay? So, but it's easier to get out of the hood than it is to get the hood out of you. How many of you have experienced that? When you had kids, you opened your mouth and your parents came out? It's easier to get out of there than it is to get it out of you, right? Change is hard for people. So what's his deal? I mean, is he successful? He had to overcome circumstances, some oppression because of racism is still real out there. And he had to make good choices himself. And he's, by the way, ultra successful. Makes a lot of money, does very well. Really brilliant guy. And married up considerable, by the way. His wife is brilliant, too. And so, you know what I'm talking about? I mean, he made different choices, but he had to get the neighborhood out of him, and he had to get out of the neighborhood, circumstances, and he fought racism along the way. He fought all three. I don't know if it's equal parts, but maybe closer to equal parts than any of the three we've talked about so far. Or how about just poor white trash? Appalachia. I was driving through rural Tennessee this weekend. Drive by a place that looked like if the porch fell down, it'd kill 3 dogs. I mean, you might be a redneck if, I mean, just trashy. 4 cars sitting up on blocks and the weeds coming around. And it's a little bit of circumstances there. You got to overcome a poverty mentality. You ever heard somebody from your old neighborhood say the little man can't get ahead? You know what that is? That's a defeatist, fatalistic attitude that says that you don't control your own destiny, that somehow there's a boogeyman out there controlling your destiny. You have to get the hood out of you after you get out of the hood. White, black, Hispanic. Yeah, circumstances affect your mindset, your belief system, therefore your ideas. So it's more complicated than just anybody can do it. It's more complicated than that. And, but truthfully, in America, in North America, you got a better shot than anywhere else. So this idea that the government should take over because other people don't love the poor is ludicrous. And it's sometimes loving someone to say, hey, you're making decisions that are keeping you poor. You're taking actions or lack of action that's keeping you poor. And sometimes it's helping them get the hood out of them, as my friend who came from the hood said. So that's the deal. So what we're talking about here is healing the brokenhearted. We're talking about hopelessness. And we're talking about tools and belief systems. So the danger of something like this WAPO article, the danger of the left-wing nut job saying that everything's fixed, you can't get ahead unless the government does it, it's actually a Marxist agenda to march towards communism, because that's the belief system that says the government is the only thing that can fix things that individuals can't fix themselves. Now, the truth is that individuals can fix themselves with help in the community. That's the truth. And the truth is that circumstances can be shifted. And the truth is that money does those things. And sometimes there's a government thing that works, but you're hard-pressed to find a government program that solved poverty. You've shown me one anywhere. A government program that solved poverty. It's just ludicrous. It's just almost impossible to find one. So that's what you're looking for. So you want to know how to help the poor? You got to work on all three of these things and on different ratios for different situations for poor people. It's not situational ethics or situational truth. It's that different people are poor for different reasons primarily. Is it their circumstances? Is it their decisions, beliefs, effort? Or are they oppressed? Oppressed would be like, how about the lotto? Almost all lotto tickets are purchased by poor people in poor zip codes. Guess whose kids go to school using the lotto money? White middle-class people? That's a government oppression of the poor. How about payday lenders? Are they oppressing the poor? Yeah. So do we need to stand up against things like that because it hurts the poor? Yeah, we do. We do. Do we need to give money and help the poor? Yeah, we do. Do we need to call them out on their decisions they're making sometimes? You bet. We'll do all of the above around here, and it'll make some of you unbelievably uncomfortable. And it's one of my natural gifts. Back with your calls on The Dave Ramsey Show. So we're talking about this subject of what causes poverty, and I gave you my opinion on what causes it. I think it's three things. Biblically, I think I can back that up. And it's not ever just one, is my opinion. So I'm going to talk to you guys. What do you think? Adrian is with us in Baltimore, Maryland. Hi, Adrian. How are you?
Hi, Dave. It's good to talk to you.
You too. So tell me what your thoughts are on this subject.
So my thoughts are, I completely agree with you that most of the time they don't know that they have better choices. I'm currently helping teach a group of homeless men who are actually coming out of homelessness. Mm-hmm. Using your principles,
Oh, thanks.
And finding that they are thriving. They never knew that things could be done differently. Mm-hmm. They just didn't understand that life could be done different. And I'd also like to say that
what put them there? What put them there in the first place, in your opinion? Was it circumstances, oppression, or lack of effort on their part, or a mix of them in some mix? Or which was the major one?
I would say a lack of education, for sure. They had no role models to show them how to do things correctly.
So more than technical education, you mean by role models, you mean belief that, hard work does pay off kind of thing.
Yes. Oh, these guys work hard. Mm-hmm. They work really hard.
But do they believe? Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
No.
Most of them, especially in the area I live in a pretty affluent area, most of them are just living too close to their margins.
Okay. And they got clipped by that.
Oh, yeah.
How long have you been doing this?
I've been doing this 2 years. I also help recovering addicts.
Cool. How many in your group?
Currently, I have a group of 3 white men.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Hold on. I'm going to have Kelly send you out books for all of them from me, okay?
Oh, thank you so much.
All right. Hey, thanks for calling in. Appreciate your opinion. Chris is with us in Los Angeles. Hi, Chris. Your question.
Hey, Dave.
Or your comments on this, I guess is the proper word.
Yeah. Can you hear me fine?
Yes, sir.
Oh, cool. Well, it's a pleasure to talk to you. I guess I have an opinion on this where, I grew up in Long Beach, California. My grandparents are from, South Central Los Angeles, and most of the world knows it's not the most affluent place in the world. But my grandfather was a landlord. He came here from New Orleans, in the 1930s, 40s. Had a family here. He, he had bought apartment buildings. And he never really had anything growing up, but, I grew up with my grandparents, so I learned from them. So I guess from my perspective, it's more about mentorships, and it starts young. I think a lot of kids need to seek people who are actually doing it. They need to, get the influence young, someone to teach them, someone to look up to, they could tell them.
So is that I'm trying to not put words in your mouth, but I want to make sure I'm grasping what you're saying. Is that kind of a combination of effort and changing circumstances? That's the mentorship, right?
No, it's both. It encompasses a lot of different things because you need to be taught, a discipline and strong work ethic young. And it also, you have to do it ethically too. I mean, no one who makes money unethically will last. You have, if you're going to have a business that's going to last a long time, you have to make sure customers are happy and you're taking care of people.
And you were taught that from a young age, even though it was in a tougher part of town.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, my grandmother would take me to church, almost every day. So I'd go to, so this is not even an evangelical thing. This is just straight ethics, and work ethic and discipline. I went from, having no money at all to, I'm a millionaire now, and, so I would say that, it's just discipline. And I encourage anyone, who wants to have a successful business to look online because all you need is an internet connection and a post office. You could ship products anywhere in the world.
Amen. Hey, thanks for the call. Interesting input. Matt is with us in New York. Matt, your comments on this subject. Matt?
Hey, Dave, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Dave. I would just like to say I love the show. I'm a student out here. And basically, I think the main reason why there are so many poor people in America is just because they're not educated on it. They don't have tools like that you preach on this show and stuff like that. If you look at people, we see people that win the lottery all the time. They go broke. It's because just by definition, they're not good with money. You know what I mean? A lot of times they choose not to embrace the market and are left without many options as far as where to go and how to get money.
Several people have said education, and I wonder what I think you guys are all saying the same thing I'm thinking when you're saying that, but I don't know if you are, so I'm going to ask. To me, education can be just learning how to do something, but the kind of education I think we're talking about in this setting is not only how to do it, but why to do it and the character around doing it. You can know how to execute a task from going to a class, agreed? But the way you go about that is a reflection of your character, and I think that's woven into this situation too. Mm-hmm. Is that in there, or are you just saying pure education, like going to a classroom?
Yeah, absolutely. So I recently graduated high school, and I'm a student in college right now. And basically, in high school, the things that they're teaching as far as finances go, they don't really teach you that well how to manage your finances when you come into adulthood. So I've had to go to external resources such as your show and other various websites and YouTube videos to sort of teach myself how to manage our finances. And we're just not teaching that in the schools in America, which is a really great a tool that you should use in building your wealth and just furthering your financial knowledge.
Gotcha. Cool. Hey, thanks for calling in, man. Appreciate your opinion. So up next is Randy in Cincinnati. Hey, Randy, how are you?
Doing well. How are you, Dave?
Better than I deserve. What's up?
So I had a quick comment and question. I'm new to your whole program, and my wife and I are just getting started. So, your initial comment, I agree with that the article was very divisive. But right after you said that, you said a few comments like, my truck would eat your Prius, and that you walk around with hollow-tip bullets. And don't you think that's a little bit divisive in itself if you're trying to have an open discussion? Do you think that's like an appropriate thing to say?
Well, no, it was two things. One, it was to show the gun comment was to show a juxtaposition that I can disagree with people who are polar opposites and still be friends with them and still help them. The truck comment was called humor.
I get that. But
I'm messing with you, Randy. Come on, man.
I understand, but don't you think that if you're trying to have an open discussion, you're kind of like alienating the liberals if they want to call in and give a viewpoint? They're like, hey, I don't really feel comfortable calling into this guy. He might make a comment like that.
Well, they might not. That's true. That critique would be fair. My purpose was not to do that. My purpose was to say we help everybody, And the guy with the coexist sticker is polar opposite of me, and I'll still help him. He's still in my classes. She's still in my classes. They got great beards, some of them. I mean, it's, just laughing about skinny jeans and all that stuff. That's all just cutting up because I'm the old bald white guy, right? So with no style sense whatsoever. So, it's just a juxtaposition, and it's just like, for some reason, we've decided that we pull up beside someone in traffic and we hate them and we've never met them. Based on what they're driving and their bumper sticker art. And I get that all the time in the seat that I sit in, and I watch people do it, and it's like, man, you just have to go about this for a political agenda. And you're right, it's just it's sickening. So if I got a little bit off base there, I was trying to have fun on part of it, and part of it I was trying to show a juxtaposition. If I missed the mark, I apologize.
It's all good. Thank you for the time, Dave.
Thank you, Randy. Appreciate you joining us. It's a good discussion. Christians are more than twice as likely to blame a person's poverty on lack of effort, says the Washington Post. My contention is that 29% is not twice as, over 46% is not twice as likely. It's not even half, so you're probably going to work on your math, number one. My contention, number two, is that that's not a Christian position at all. And the Washington Post, once again, just like a lot of the other news outlets on the left and on the right, are more about driving an agenda than they are having a reasonable discussion. Poverty is caused by circumstances, oppression from the outside, by government and marketplace predators, and by bad decisions / lack of effort. It's caused by all three things in different ratios, in different settings, and we covered some examples of that this hour. Fun discussion. I'm sure it'll stir some of you folk up, but it's one of the things I'm here for, is to make you actually think instead of just following along with your head so far up your politics you don't have an original thought. This is the Dave Ramsey Show. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, click the subscribe button to get the latest content and check out these other great clips from the show.